What is the best way to get started on a new training cycle? Now, this is probably a video I should have covered about a week and a half ago as I was just getting started on this next new training cycle, but the idea came to me today, so let's get right into it. The number one mistake that athletes make as they re-enter their training cycle, and I'll call it formal training because oftentimes if you're engaged in any type of sport, you keep relatively active throughout the year. But there's always a set time when you know that you're going to start beginning serious training for a race or an endeavor. So in my case, it's Ironman triathlon. In many of your cases, it might be your first 70.3 or marathon or half marathon, whatever. But the number one mistake that people tend to make is they go out of the gate way too quickly. And I'm not just talking about speed, but looking at the total load on a weekly view, okay? So the worst thing that you can do is go from being moderately active to completely dialed in and structured on your training. So as my first alleviation of this potential catastrophe that you could put yourself in, I'll just give my main piece of advice right out the gate by saying that the goal of your first 3 weeks of training, and yes, I said 3 weeks, is to reestablish a routine for your body rather than trying to get back to your previous level of fitness as quickly as possible. And I want to reiterate this point, and I should reiterate this point without becoming too annoying, because no matter how experienced I get personally, I still see in myself a glimpse of wanting to rush through that first 3 weeks of training. And the reason is because it's extremely frustrating. So if you can remember yourself at your best and at your most fit, then getting started on a fresh new training cycle is probably the worst feeling of getting started with training to begin with. And that's because in those first 3 weeks of being back on 5 to 6 days a week of training, you'll basically be performing your worst while remembering yourself from pretty much your peak of the last training cycle, which ideally is your best. And that mental hang up causes you to start to believe that you might be setting yourself up for failure the next season, or that there's something wrong with your body, or that this just isn't going to be a good season for you because your body isn't responding to the first week or so of training how you would expect to. And if you can allay those fears for long enough, by week 6, 7, 8, you'll start to realize that you were, just stuck in the typical mind games that any athlete falls into. And it's funny enough that in the past year, I've went through this repetitious cycle probably 4 times. The first time being when I first started my last Ironman training block in January. The next time was first starting to work out again after my Ironman in July. The third time was starting my running speed buildup in the fall, and now the fourth time being after surgery and then getting back into the swing of my next full Ironman buildup. These first 3 weeks, every single time, I looked at myself and said, oh my God, I'm so slow. My heart rate is not responding how I want it to. My ankles hurt, my calves hurt, my body is just feeling extra tired, extra achy. Like there's no part of me that is feeling good about this next training block. And then you float on that thought for the whole, 6 days a week and 5 days a week of training for the next 3 weeks. And it's about, 21 days of absolute like mental mind games. And then by the time you forget about how horrible you feel, you find yourself PRing your next effort a month later. And, this isn't just a unique experience to me. It's something that literally every athlete that I've spoken to and, been around, and people that I've coached personally, everybody says the same thing. And it's kind of funny after some time of speaking with these people and working with these people and just being friends with these people and seeing it in myself, that it's almost like it's such a predictable thing that it's comical after a while, because it's you can kind of joke with yourself and say that it's going to happen and it's going to come, and even though you know that it's going to come, you're still going to be put through the trials and tribulations of those first 3 weeks. So again, to get back to the practical application of what you can do here, and what I'm currently in the middle of doing right now, every single workout for last week, this week, and next week are denoted as easy workouts with the goal of hitting a good zone 2 effort, holding, decent mileage and starting to gradually build up that weekly volume, and then keeping on top of recovery so that we're not starting out the season with any unnecessary pains, weaknesses, or deficiencies in whether it's, form, etc. So that's my advice. So I have about, after this weekend, another whole week of straight up easy workouts, and easy from an RPE perspective and easy from a heart rate perspective. As I've learned, relearned recently again, your Garmin or your Apple Watch or whatever you have as a fitness tracker might not understand the intent that you're planning for those 3 weeks. So you'll show as potentially unproductive, potentially strained, or potentially just maintaining. You might dip into productive a little bit in those few weeks of training status, but realistically, what you're doing is setting the base, and then as soon as you start to kick training up a notch with actual structured workouts, you'll bounce right back into a productive training state if your training is programmed properly, of course, where you'll start to realize actual training benefits. So don't fret, don't worry, don't overdo it, don't go in too hard. Just let the beginning process ramp itself up naturally. Don't worry, okay? Like after the first 3 weeks, you're gonna be fine, and you'll be on your way to a fresh season where then that hard work is going to start to matter. So don't put your hard work where it doesn't matter in the beginning, where you're likely to be injured or just mess yourself up for the season. Just go easy, build the routine, get your body, get your mind used to working out on these specific days of the week and building up volume on each of those days independently, and then you're off to a good season. So that's it for today's video. If you like this, then comment and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next one. Happy training.